Just to review the last question, hey, then we'll proceed with Eis Vav. How is it possible that a Yid should be at once Kabbalah Selnik and at the same time a profound intellectual? It's the same Jew, same Chassid. So the Nakud of the answer is, it's only possible if his connection, his Kabbalah's oil, springs from the Etzem HaNefesh. If it's the Etzem Mamish, it's not something that he simply adopts from time to time, Kabbalah's oil, but he is a Kabbalah's oil Nick. Etzem HaNefesh, then it'll express itself on everything, even in his learning. So one of the ways to see a person can test himself if his seichel, if his learning is permeable the Kabbalah soil, is a very simple test. To have to win the argument. If I have to win the argument, then it's a riot. It's not. I have to get the final word. I'm talking even in Torah things, not like in valid discussions. Certainly when it's not Torah, it's just a question of someone else's convenience or what have you, or feelings. If I have to be right, then the seichel is disconnected from the etzem nefesh. So that's oisis ha'chkika, the second level of chkika permeates. That's why it's zois chukas HaTorah, everything, even the edus and the mishpatim, which al pi Torah you have to understand and so on. It's all permeated with the goal of kalifu b'tiyari, right? Remember that quote? Yeah. Okay. Eis Vav, which means he made an impression God carved out in the supernal purity. Carved out what? His will. It's one with him. That's the Oisius Achkika. Eis Vav. Did we do Eis Vav, friends? I think we did it. Huh? Okay, we'll do Eis Vav. There is a b'mitzvah paraduma atzmo. No, we did this. So we did it. It's the same Nakuda that we can start. Okay, we'll do it again. There is a b'mitzvah paraduma atzmo. Aliyah never says chukas HaTorah. So this mitzvah itself expresses what we said before, the fusion. So this is Chukas HaTorah, b'chikas chika me'eva le'eva, completely engraved. Shekiyumohu le'eva, rak b'kei chamayis shlei mitzvah Kabbalah's oil, that he does the mitzvah not only with Kabbalah's oil, which is manifested in action, el b'ofen she'emun v'akadosh baruch hu l'shmar l'ma'aseichel, doesn't skip intellect in the heart. It pervades it. B'ofen she'emun v'akadosh oil l'shmar l'ma'aseichel, poilim gam al ha'seichel b'oi, they affect his seichel. Shelo yaharer. How does it affect the seichel in this case is that seichel acknowledges that it's hidden seichel. You cannot, harer means to think, but to inquire. And he's makayim the mitzvah with energy and with simcha, just like with the same gishmak, the same energy that he does for those mitzvahs that he understands. And therefore, the Rebbe now adds, this would be said that paraduma is the whole Torah. It's not only because it lays bare the essence. Because of the core of all mitzvahs, it's all hidden seichel. That's not why. It's more than that. It's the whole Torah because it embraces even the seichel dimensions of Torah. I'm sorry. That's what we said before. Ella, more than that, this is summary we just said. Ella sham mitzvah t'baradum sat atzma. Let's see, he's adding another point here. That the mitzvah paradum itself, given shedim meliovאוויטש b'tam, it itself is not invested in reason. Peles ha'kabbalah seilu shebala seichel, b'ofen klal yibchin ha'shlila shlo yaharer. Okay, this we didn't. If we said this, we didn't address this. What's the effect? What's the effect of paraduma is, it's, listen here, Seichel. Your whole value is because Eibishter wants to do it b'tachtoinu. Therefore you come into Seichel. But be'emes lo yahad. The paraduma puts Seichel in its place. Lo yahad. And then once we understand that Seichel per se is not the beginning and end all, God is not divine intelligence, it's infinitely beyond. Lo yahad. And then it's drawn down in the Pratei Mitzvah Kabbalas El Peila La Seichel Shiasa Kfi Arotzen. Then the Seichel is reintroduced once first it's negated. Negated is you're not a Metzias per se. You have no value per se. So why is there Seichel? Because God wants me to understand. Okay. So that Peil's the Seichel now is introduced into the relationship, and it's Kfi Arotzen. Doesn't get a life of its own. Meaning to say, if I don't understand, I reject. I turn my back on you. I get broiges. I understand you because it's you. And if I don't understand you, it's also you. Yeah, we see this in the details. What we're saying now, we see this in the details of paraduma. That paraduma stands apart even from other chukim. Why? It's not just beyond understanding, because it combines opposites. It's one thing you don't understand this, but another level of not understanding is where it's contradictory. On the one hand, it's the most powerful agency for tahara, yet it's made outside, even outside the third machane, outside Yerushalayim. You have to sprinkle on the person facing the Oyel Moed, so it's connected to Oyel Moed. So these contradictions. So what does this translate? The translate this for us beautifully. When the etzem of a yid is revealed, he's the Chukas HaTorah through and through, no matter where he is. And even where he's sent or where he finds himself outside of the world of Kedusha, interesting. That's where he's looking. He never remains disconnected. You can't tear him asunder from the Heichel, from the Oyel Moed. That's the power. Dafke, if what? If his connection is mitzad etzem nefesh, wherever you put him, he remains connected. There's many ways it can be translated, but this is the way they would translate this. The message is obvious, but also I think he's referring to shlichus. We're all shluchim, we're all chutz l'shalish machnes to one degree or another, of course. But he's miskaven v'roye pischa shel heichel. You look in his eyes and you see what's he looking at. Where is he looking? The pischa shel heichel, the opening of the heichel. V'yesh tekasha zeh mavur b'kot Torah. And we can connect this contrast. Chutz l'machane be connected to pischa shel heichel. That's connected to what he says in the Kot Torah. Shemasha kosa paraduma. Why is this the whole Torah? We said before on Sif Aleph, because it has transparently the two inyanim of Rotzev v'Shuv. The Shuv is being chutz machana, and the Rotzev is the fire. It completely goes up in a conflagration. Because these two opposites simultaneously are only possible mitzad etzem hanefesh. Ki harotzi lotzis megeder hakelim v'aseichel. On the one hand, wanting to go out of one's limitations and going beyond Seichel, that's Kabbalah Seil, Shemani Metam, that's Kabbalah Seil higher than Tam V'das. Shazev Yendecha Pnei El Moed, he's looking to the El Moed, that's where his longing is. Vashuv, and the Shuv is Yinam Shocha B'Seichel, yet it embraces the Seichel, in this case, knowing its limits, Shelo Yahader. It's a very important point that Seichel itself has to understand its own limitations. Not we're ignoring Seichel, pushing seichel to the limit and recognizing that this is an inya that seichel embraces that's higher than seichel. That's the nekuda. The seichel understands shelo yehara. And then bizeh nimshach, that's the shuv. He's addressing his intellect, but at this raw level of exposing its limits. And then then we engage seichel with it now in its true and proper context, that he understands that which must be understood in Torah. To the extent that he elevates that place where he is. And what does he do there? He means there. Someone became impure. He's creating this agency, this mechatas, that can be metayah tumas meshel and matam noiga, that's much lower than klipas noiga, which is neutral. This is mamash shalosh klipas atmeyas, and here he's able to be metayah. Again, it's like holy shlichus, going out there and elevating the world, being metayah tumas mes. Could be also, it doesn't say it in the Maimer, but just thinking that because Paraduma reveals, I haven't seen this anywhere, but it's connected. It's through and through. That's why Metairis Atmeim, Matamis Atahirim, because that level, everything is equal. Light and darkness. And therefore, Chukas HaTorah brings out that equivalence. Gvul and bli gvul, and its source is all equal. It's at the etzem nefesh. Yesh loimar. Oy zayin. Yesh loimar, the Rebbe concludes, Zoi gama shayches te pashtas Chukas, l'chag agula d'yud beis Tmuz. This is the connection to beis Tmuz, shalachein keri and oisa, v'kama shonim. Therefore, we read it many years, b'Shabbos, on Shabbos, and the name is Baruch Kol Yom, and Shabbos is the day that blesses all the days of the week that follow. So we read it, Shalifna Yud Beis Tmuz. How's it this year? When Yud Beis Tmuz? Sorry?
We're Zion today, so it's next week. What's this week's question?
Yeah, next week is Yud Beis Tmuz.
So today's Zion.
I think Tuesday, Rabbi.
What?
I think Tuesday.
Yeah. So it's read always the Shabbat Beis Tmuz. Akalpone b'smichos the Gimel Tammuz. If not Yud Beis Tmuz, it's always in proximity to Gimel Tammuz. As you all know, that's the day the Fikir actually left the prison, on Thursday. No, not left. That's when he was informed that he was going to be released. That's when freedom was given. He remained till Sunday. He wouldn't leave. Didn't want to go on Shabbos, even though it's not only permissible, probably mandatory, but that explains why he didn't do it. Because it would pay lachlicious in the Chassidim. So he was ready to stay in the lines then, no matter what the consequence. At any rate, so Gimel Tammuz, he was still there, but essentially freedom was granted to him. V'yad, so much so, Shigam. So he's saying the connection to Pashas Chukas is always around Yud Beis or Gimel Tammuz, to the extent Shekam b'Maimid Beis Tammuz Arishan, this first Maimed that he said, Huva Pirish Rashi, Al Pasuk says Chukas HaTorah. He quotes, as we brought earlier, the Rashi on Chukas HaTorah, that this is the Chukah, and that the nations of the world mock the Yidden and so on. So what's the connection? That his liberation, Gimel Tammuz, Beis Tammuz, is Dafke Pashas Chukas. Kiyadua. What do you think he says here? It's known that the Fidik Rebbe, my saintly father-in-law, he was permeated all the days of his life with actual Mesidus Nefesh b'yachad imzeh. And here's the nuance. So Mesidus Nefesh b'poel is rotzoi. That's a rotzoi, right? Going out of limits, Hari. Together with that, Hari kolin yonov betachlis yashvus. Everything was absolutely organized, literally yashvus, structured and calm. Even quoting here, is quoting the letter that he wrote to the Rebbe after Tmuz. Quote, he was explaining he was arrested because of the great avodah that I did in spreading Torah and strengthening our faith, because of which, the result of which, he was arrested before he Tmuz. And the his whole avodah was not api seichel. I mean, I feel only api seichel the kedusha. Not even seichel of kedusha. Torah itself says that you don't be Moishe nefesh. It's not the three avedas the person has to die for. So you met chiduch of children, a mikveh. And he expressed himself in an avodah mitzvahs nefesh b'poel, which is completely beyond, shatters all the limitations of logic, even Torah logic of Torah law. Nonetheless, is that's the big rotzoi. In this fire that he was in, mitzvahs nefesh, it was absolutely mesuder, organized. It's a weak word, maybe a better word. It was. In bracket, he says, Adomu, human nature is when a person is in a state of breaking all boundaries, in calculations and the like. You can't be in two places. Simcha Peretz gathered, well, he put, to use Simcha as an example, at that time he's going to make a detailed calculation of it. No, and yet he did. Mechusheves was thought out, Varuch, and laid out, structured. In order to achieve the greatest success, it was extremely organized. The Friedrich Rebbe, and in every aspect of it, the funding and the places, we can't even imagine the details of what the Friedrich Rebbe was arranging it through his shluchim in the Mesiras Nefesh. So these are the two inyanim we're talking about: Ratzeh and Shuv, Kabbalah Soil and Seichel. Now here comes a Miditika order coming up, friends. Kapi Mashakasev, Bepidishash Pasha Seinu. And in light of that which Rashi says in our Pasha's Chukas, Moishe, Yisov, Yisol, and Moishe, you know the story there, right? Okay, let's get a Chukas. Rashi points out, I don't know if, just give me a chumash, thank you. The bid must be someone there. Yeah, I'll get it on the phone. Okay. So Rashi points out, it's a contradiction in the psukim. Okay, it's very important to get this clear, friends, because this is the source of Anasei Wakoil. It's this Rashi. So the Torah says, it's Chaf Aleph, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, what's it? Yeah? Chaf Aleph. But the pasuk says that Moishe sent messengers to Sichon, the king of Amori, and saying, we want to pass through peacefully, and we'll pay for all of our lodging, etc. You'll gain financially on the way to Yisrael. Sichon refused, went out with war, went out to. Yeah, and the rest, they defeat him, etc. Now Rashi says, but elsewhere, when Moishe Rabbeinu Pashas in Sefer in Pashas Dvorim reviews the history, he says, I sent messengers. Here it says, he didn't send. Another contradiction. Earlier we read that Edom, who sent the messengers to it's Esau, the king of Edom, they didn't, in that case, just bypass him. Who sent? So earlier we read Moishe sent. But Yiftach, the judge, later when he reviews it, later on within Yisrael, one of the judges, he reviews their history to the Yidden. He describes that event as Not Moishe sending to Edom, but Eden. So we have this contradiction with both Sichain and Melech HaMoiri and Edom. So says Rashi, I'll translate. These psukim need each other. One closes, this one opens. Moishe is Yisrael, Shemoishe Yisrael, Yisrael He Moishe. Loi malach, to tell you, Shenosi Hadoir Kachol Hadoir. The leader of the generation is like the whole generation. Ki Anosi HaKol, for the leader is everyone, and the Torah is deliberately telling us this by substituting or interchanging who the center of the messengers is. Now back to the Maimon, and we'll see the ha'orah, I hope. Yeah. So in light of again, what to the number 39 in the text. In light of the fact this is all Pashas Chukas, the fifth Kedebles Yud Beis Tmuz, Gimel Tmuz, liberation. Leimalach, and Rashi concludes, we just shared, that the Torah does this to teach you. Moving, it's understood that this which he just described about the fifth Kedebles Mesilas Nefesh, he gives over to Yidden. It's a big deal because the Rebbe and Nasi, who are koil, because Nasi means elevated. There's another place, the Rosh HaDor Kachal HaDor is the head. He's called the head, and the head, like the head of the body, embraces the whole body. But then there's a darg of Nasi, which is he's beyond the head. This he gives over to, even his atzmizdike levels. Nisius, beyond head, even that he gives over. So he's saying, moving in the present tense that I was saying here, that the Frierdiker Rebbe gives to all Yidden this koyach of Mesiras Nefesh and Seichel at the same time, and Seider Mesuder. Friends, it's the Torah became the Tikkun. That's what he's saying. Even someone is only Jewish by name. That's the figure that writes in this first letter. Then that this Geula, this redemption, was for all Klal Yisrael, even a Yid. That his whole he identifies as being Jewish only. That I'm Jewish by name.
Brackets that are in here.
Huh?
Brackets around Rab.
Yeah, he's only Jewish to the extent. I didn't say it.
Yeah, what does that mean that it's in brackets?
His whole Jewish identification is only by name.
What does it mean that it's in brackets here? Did the Rebbe say it?
Because it's up in the letter. The Rebbe adds that. The Rebbe says the Chiddush. It's even. Now, before we finish the Maimon, I have to look at ha'orah 40. It's unbelievable. I don't know if this was added. The Rebbe said this. Let's look at it. So he just said in ha'orah 40, Loi malach, he's quoting the end of Rashi, why the Torah interchanges that Moishe sent, Eden sent. The bottom conclusion is, Loi malach shanasi ha'adoir kachal hadoir. Yes, shanasi ha'koil. Ask the Rebbe, l'chayra, this whole ending in Rashi, to teach you that the nasi hadoir is kachal hadoir, kanasi ha'koil, right? Eine negel avonet pshuta shamikra. Rashi doesn't, it could stop before that. The reader is puzzled. Here it says Moishe, it says Yidden. Just say Yisrael and Moishe and Yisrael. Stop there. What's the loy malach? The Rashi's mandate is to explain the simple meaning of the pasuk, not to give us heroes instructions. Elo, I'm not sure exactly, but then shemetaretz and mavayir lo mashina hakosef. This is all part of Pshutik Shemikra to explain why the Torah would change here Moshe and here Yisrael. But I'm not sure exactly, frankly, how is that not answered? We'll just keep on reading. It's in the second part I want to focus on. You're welcome to say your pshat. Let's go further. He's answering why the pasuk changes. Shezeu loyma l'cha, to tell you. Who's the you? Keil gam ben chomish. Even the 5-year-old is learning. Ki keinu gam bepashtus hadvarim. That this that Moishe and Yidden are interchangeable. It's not on some esoteric level, but it's at the simple level. Maybe that's what it means. Pshuta Shamikra. Pshuta Shamikra actually wants to emphasize that this that Moishe and Yidden are synonymous is translated down to the most simple level, to the one who learns Torah at the Pshat level, the 5 years old. And in our physical world, corresponding to Pshat, it's 4 levels, right? Pshat, Remes, Drush, Sod. Simple, allegorical, illusion, allegorical, and Sod. Corresponding to the 4 elements. The child is in which world? The child is in. Corresponds to Pshat, Elemes, Agashmi. Shenosi Hador is the whole generation. So, okay, what is he saying here? What does Rashi say, Loy Malacha? Because Rashi writes a Pirish to 5 years old, which means at this physical level, our world, at the simple level. So Rashi is explaining at the Pshat level that you have to know in your world, in your simple world, that the Nase you are, he embraces you in your world. And you're part of this. Loy Malacha. That's why isn't the game Pshuta Shamikra? Because Rashi has to explain the pasuk to the Ben Chomish. So Rashi therefore concludes, to you the Ben Chomish in my world, where the world of Ben Chomish. You have to know, that's why the Torah changes it, that you need to know. Hanasi Akel. Now the Ik is the Ik, look at the second half of the order now. It's getting clearer to me. And now we'll understand a very strange thing. Rashi said just a few lines before, it went both ways. Then he says to teach. And then he should have concluded, and the generation is the Nasi. Why only the Nasi to the generation and not the generation to the Nasi? Now we'll understand why. Because since he's talking to the Ben Chomish in his world, it's not always the pearl that the Yidden are bottled to the Nasi and they're synonymous with the Nasi. You can't say Loy Malacha about that. After she sold the Moishe, the Moishe generation of they were synonymous with Moishe Rabbeinu. It's after the 40 years they learned. They're already clamoring. They wouldn't let him go. They were protesting. They shouldn't go with them. So then they were Taka, Yisrael and Moishe Yisrael. That's talking about the parashiyos. That's true. But the Loy Malacha, why instead of doing this to tell you, Mashenkim Benasi Ador, of every generation, it's lav dafke, that it's reciprocal. And even when it's not, he remains mitzad nosi akel, and that you have to know. You're not alone. Even when it's missing our avodah. I don't know if you know this, but Purim, Tavshim Memvov, you know the famous Fabring Purim Memvov. That was really a forerunner to the whole Chav Ches Nissen and everything. And the Rebbe said he said, really, the avodah of bringing Mashiach is the avodah of the Nesiim. But since it's missing the bittul, the iskashus, it has to go over to it's going to be translated by the people. It was a shocking farbrengen then. A whole arichas, gedoyle. I think it's Memvov. That's what you're saying over here. Yisrael and Moishe Yisrael, that was their day. Lei Malacha, you Ben Chomish in your world, from now till Mashiach comes. That's part of the equation remains. But the avodah of our bittul is lav dafk. But that's the beauty. That nonetheless, the beauty. Even though the Rebbe said it goes over to us, he still doesn't abandon. Chas v'sholom. Still on Nosei Akoil. Okay, we finish the Maimer. Yeah. So continuing with us, so it's understood. This koyach of Mesiras Nefesh that we're talking about here, that stems from the Etzema Nefesh, completely engraved through and through, is given over by the Rebbe, even to the simplest Jew. Simplest in the sense that his whole identification is that he's a Jew. And when we will go in the way that he has solal, he has paved out. Yesh naftocha, we have the assurance, shikuy mashe kosov, he fulfilled in us, and this was he's quoting it from the he ever quotes this pasuk in his letter, and it's also, Yibis Tamas Maimora begins with this pasuk, Yashem lakendu yimono, that Abish should be with us, Keshoim Aviseinu, like he was with their forefathers, Al Yazvenu, Al Yichenu. It's both a request and a statement. He will not forsake us, not abandon us. L'chol b'nei Yisrael yeh oir, and to all there'll be light. Baruch niyas v'gashmiyas. That's a lashon of the Rebbe on Gimel Tmuz. Made a mistake before. Reish Chodesh Tmuz is when he was informed he's free. Gimel Tmuz was 3 days later. That's when he went to Kostroma. That was Sunday. And at the train station, he said these words. He's quoting here. I'm sorry, corrected. Okay, quick summary. And the B'ez Hashem tomorrow, the next Maimer. You don't have it. I didn't, sorry. I'll read it to you. Notice. Admo is called Chukas HaTorah. Yeah, maybe we'll do the summary tomorrow. Not rush it. We have to daven Shachris. And we'll start in Yemaimer tomorrow. B'ez Hashem.